let's welcome in from Daily Faceoff our pal Stephen Ellis. World Junior talk in just a minute. Jet top prospect Brayden Yager involved in a big blockbuster move, going from a place where he won a WHL championship last year, but the team gave up a lot to get the likes of Matt Savoy and help him win it. And now it seems like he's the carrot for them to restock their cupboard, and he moves to Lethbridge. Tell us about the trade and this new team that he comes to and where he fits in with the Hurricanes.
Yeah, Lethbridge, they're trying to go all the way this year, and they've got some good, talented players. Their top guy is an older player, Brayden Edwards, Miguel Marquez, a national prospect. I really like Noah Chadwick, the Leafs defensive prospect. So they've got some good pieces there. Not a lot of high-end talent, and I don't think they're going to be done bringing that in, but going out there and getting Yager to go be a big part of a team that is a threat. Like, let's be realistic. Watching him this year, every game I've seen Brayden Yager play, he's lost. So that's not his fault. Moose Jaw's just not a good team, but it is a bit of a shame his final game with the Warriors was a 9-0 loss to Calgary.
Probably couldn't get out of town soon enough, although with such great memories after winning a championship last year. But that is the cyclical nature of junior hockey. What does this do for Yager, who, was, doing his part, but on a team that was getting thumped each and every night? Just for his season and his development, how much of a positive do you think this is to be in with a very competitive team looking to make another run for a long time through the playoffs like he did last year?
Yeah, like right now, like the fact that it was Lethbridge being the team that picked him up is interesting because, Edmonton is 1 point away from passing Lethbridge, and all of a sudden Lethbridge is last in their division, but it's still a team that does have high hopes, and going out there and getting a player who can help them right now is a good sign. And, with the Moose Jaw Warriors, just not a good team. They, again, second last in their division, a 10-point swing between the two in different divisions. When it comes to Lethbridge, he's just got a better shot at going for wins. And that's the thing about this division that they're playing. Yeah, they're tied for fifth in the division of 6 teams, but they're 5 points out of first. So it's really tight right now through the 24, 25 game mark. And I think that him being there means he's going to have a chance to go out there and win games, push hard, and maybe even go for another championship.
Hey, listen, we can't mention Brayden Yager on Winnipeg Sports Talk without talking about the guy they shipped out to get Brayden Yager. Are you surprised that Rutger was so quickly shipped off to the American Hockey League? And it seems like he's coming around a little bit. He's got 2 goals and 4 assists right now after a real slow start. Just thoughts on his season right now, and considering where the Penguins are and the fact that he got the opportunity at the start of the season. From the outside looking in, for someone like you with no skin in the game, how do you view Rutger's first season as a pro?
I think the one thing here is it's really kind of shows you how hard it is to go straight from college to the NHL. And Will Smith's another good example, a guy who led the NCAA in scoring last year, and he started the year with 8 games before he got his first point. I think it was, 9 games before he got his first point. So the college, as good as a test, the physicality and everything that is playing college hockey can be for a player, when you're going from 36 games and you're only playing on weekends and there's not a ton of travel to now you're on the road every single day. And I think no matter what player you are, you do see this happen. Jack Eichel is another good example of a guy that struggled right. Kyle Connor, another player, goes from college to the NHL, and it was not an easy first couple steps there. But I think with McGroarty, he's got to go out there and find his confidence. He's a guy who plays with a lot of it. That's when he's at his best, when he knows that he could be the best player on the ice, and he didn't get that. Granted, I really was wishing they would give him a legitimate shot of playing with either Crosby or Malkin, because he's a skilled player who goes out there and hits. The one thing those two guys need is a player who could do a little bit of that, and obviously it didn't work out. But right now, McGroarty not looking so good. Finally figuring it out, but I know for Jets fans, I know they'll be pretty happy to see that.
Yeah, well, listen, I think most importantly, Brayden Yager turns out to be the guy that the organization hoped they were getting when they made that deal. And he, of course, looks to be a big part of Team Canada at the World Junior Hockey Championships. We'll talk about the team in a minute, but, speaking of guys that have been traded this year, Colby Barlow gets moved from, the team that he was on where he was the captain to a more competitive team. He's got, I think, 16 points in 26 games or so, 10 goals, and found himself not even invited to the camp for a World Junior. What do you make? Tell us about his season so far. Was this a surprise to you that he seemingly doesn't have a sniff of the team?
I didn't think he was going to get invited. I thought the only way that would work is if there was a clear path for him to be a fourth line grinder style player. It feels like they're going for a bit more skill. And for a guy like him who, Hockey Canada, I know they like him. He's had good showings at the Holinka. He's had good showings at the U18. So he knows, like Hockey Canada knows what he's capable of. Well, we saw the 40 goals last year. I guess, the problem is it's not been a good season. And they also didn't bring Beckett Seneca, who is having a better season this year out of Oshawa too. And I was told early on, it didn't seem like Seneca was going to be invited. So I guess not completely shocking. I'd say kind of just from an overall standpoint that, a lot of, if you look online, a lot of people have criticized kind of how Canada's putting their roster together for this tournament. I'm not too concerned because they brought a lot of guys that were almost redundant. And that's the thing. Colby Barlow knows how to score goals. They also left off Michael Misa, who is literally leading the OHL in goal scoring. So they must feel they've kind of got a lot of guys who could do kind of similar things, and they didn't need a guy like Barlow. But it's tough because I thought he looked really good at the World Junior Summer Showcase. Granted, I will say, when he played those games against, I think it was, I want to say Sweden and USA, Canada was icing like a C team at that point. All their good players were sitting down. And so who knows how he would have how good he would have looked if they actually had their full lineup out there. But yeah, it felt like there was going to be a tough road for him to make this team, and we obviously saw he didn't.
While we're talking about World Juniors, do you expect Brayden Yager to be on the team, and how big of a role might he get from Team Canada?
Yeah, I think Yager's going to probably play a top six role. Obviously, on the team last year, looked pretty good. I think there's no real question about him making it. I wouldn't be surprised if he sat out one or both of those exhibition games they're going to be playing against U Sports next week in Ottawa, and I'll be there for that. But it seems like it's pretty much a done deal as a returning guy who's got as much skill as he has.
Speaking of he has had just a banana start to the season. What have you seen from him so far? And by the way, I mean, I know he was born. Does he have dual citizenship? Like, was he even eligible to be in the mix for the Canadian team, or is he Chinese?
Well, so he's listed as a dual citizen. I know someone like Simon Wang isn't eligible to play for Canada despite playing pretty much his entire life and living in Canada because he's listed as Chinese. With Kevin He, I'm not 100% sure on how that works, but I'd say that, it seemed like it was a surprise to a lot of scouts that he was actually born in China because it was listed that he was always born in, I think it was Richmond Hill in Ontario, outside of Toronto, or somewhere in that Toronto area before he was drafted. So when it was announced it was Beijing, it's like, oh, I don't think anyone knew that actually.
What about his season?
On pace for 55 goals, something like that. Like, incredible. I think a lot of scouts were looking at him and saying, okay, he's on a team that's terrible, dreadful, not a lot of scoring options. Let's see what he could do when he's got an opportunity to shine. And Niagara quickly has become one of the most improved teams in major junior hockey. And, it happens with the cycle of things, but you're watching him and Ryan Rubrick create so much offense, Rubrick being a 2026 prospect, really good there. Andrei Loshko is a fantastic line mate to have out there, the Belarusian out of for the Seattle Kraken. Brady Wasselin going out there and spending some time with him on the power play. Wasselin's another guy you're going to be hearing about in the next couple of years. So, yeah, I think with he, it's finally getting a chance to play with guys that can highlight just how good of a player Kevin He was, because he had to do so much on his own last year. Sometimes would get caught trying to do a bit too much and it would hurt him. But right now what we're seeing is truly one of the better goal scorers in the OHL.
I mean, it's always interesting having conversations about guys year plus one, year plus two. Is he exceeding any expectations of him this year? I mean, like, if this was happening in his draft year, how much would that change maybe where he was picked?
I think, some concerns would still be there. As good of a workhorse player he is, sometimes it's just not passing when he needs to and making a few too many moves that just don't pay off. I still think, though, from an overall standpoint, like, scouts are noticing him every night, and they're saying, like, yeah, we're seeing just how skilled of a player he is, just how good of a shot he is. He's more than just the fastest player on the ice. Because I remember watching him in his OHL draft year. You noticed him, man. He was just like a bat out of hell, just so fast, just incredible speed. But it was like when he would get to the other zone, he would be confused on what to do with it. The only way he was shooting, it seemed like, was standing still, doing one-timers. He needed to be able to play off the rush. Right now, we're seeing someone who's able to do that a lot more effectively and is using his line mates a bit better.
Hey, one other guy I just wanted to ask you. You've probably seen him, and he was a late round pick last year of the Jets, but is a really unique package. Is Kieron Walton, who seems to be having a good season. I mean, this was a guy, I think he was picked in the 6th round, which usually is a little bit of an afterthought. He certainly stood out at times in training camp this year and is having a great season. How much is he doing to boost his stock?
Well, I actually wrote about him. I profiled him today in my prospect roundup on Daily Faceoff, but I pointed out that he's on pace for over 100 points this year. And the key thing here was not having Quentin Musty in Sudbury for a while meant someone had to step up. Now Musty is hurt, so he is going to be missing the next little bit. And this is an opportunity for Walton to go out there and show what he's capable of. And I do think that we might see him on the World Junior team next year because, again, like you mentioned, he's so unique. 6'6", over 200 pounds, really good playmaker, works really hard. I remember watching him again going back to his OHL draft year, which was, I believe, the same team that Kevin He played for. And with Walton, the speed wasn't there, the mobility wasn't. He could overpower guys, but he was overpowering 5'6" players. He wasn't going out there and doing against tougher competition. And this year feels like he's got this really good role. He's producing. He's going to probably pass his previous best from last year within the next few games. This is a guy who's just playing with confidence, and he's figured out how to use his power forward nature to his advantage.
I'm just looking at these numbers. I mean, last year when the Jets picked him in the 6th round, played 65 games, had 18 goals and 43 points, 18 penalty minutes. This year in 25 games, 16 goals, 23 assists, 39 points. He's 4 points off of his total in 40 less games. But I do want to ask you, I mean, God knows we spend a lot of time talking about size here right now, and I know he's not a defenseman, but is he tough? Does he have any nasty in his game?
I would argue there's a bit more nasty he could probably use if he's going to be an NHL player, but he's got a little bit of finesse for 6'6". But part of it is I feel like he gets a lot of penalties for being just simply like 50 pounds heavier than half the players he's going up against. So I'd say he can overpower guys a bit. I would be more interested to see him in some NHL preseason games to see how nasty he is when he has to be, because he doesn't necessarily have to be in the OHL, but you can kind of see it. Like I remember he was not afraid to push guys around at the GTHL level, and I think he's probably still going to put up close to 50 point penalty minutes this year, but it's not a guy who's going to go out there and just be a meanie out there, for lack of a better term.
Steven, great stuff. You mentioned you got a piece on Walton right now. Fill people in on what else is up in your column at Daily Faceoff and what you're going to be focusing on as we get closer to the holidays.
No, it's going to be a lot of World Junior stuff. Every week I start off by looking at the top prospects that caught my eye, and Kieron Walton was one of them. Kevin He has been profiled at some point earlier this year, but it's going to be a lot of World Juniors over the next little bit. I'll be at both Canada and USA's camp, and then I'll be in Ottawa for the World Juniors, so can't wait.
Good stuff, pal. We'll do this again soon. Appreciate you, and thanks for doing this.
Thanks so much.
Good stuff. There is Steven Ellis. You can check out all of his work on the prospect beat over at Daily Faceoff.